So yeah, we are live here. They have picked the map. The map is going to be Athenae. And Danko versus Wolf Madslinky is going to be a pretty interesting matchup. These guys tend to meet each other quite a lot in tournaments. They are both very good players, and the last time they played, Danko came out on top in a very close battle that ended prematurely by, let's just call it, a loss of connection. Now, Madslinky, hello Reptilicus, are you there to make this thread rated R again, or this chat rated R? I certainly hope so. So yeah, the last 5 games between these guys ended 5-5, 2-2 I mean. And in the tiebreaker, Carthage versus Carthage, the game ended prematurely, but the admins decreed that Mr. Danko was slightly ahead. So the sound is okay, it seems like. Good. Now they're just looking at the builds here. Madslinky is going to pick Rome here, and the rules of this tournament are a bit special because it's the standard stuff with max 6 of the same. There are max 8 cavalry units, max 10 skirmishers I believe, and horse skirmishers are counted in the cavalry max. There are max 8 pikes, which won't be very well, Rome doesn't have pikes, but one of the things is that you can't stay within your own deployment zone, so you need to move outside of your own deployment zone, and both players are attackers, so both players need to try to do damage to their opponent at all times. Now of course these rules are open to interpretation, and it isn't allowed to stay within 300 of the map's edge. So the map is going to be, unless the fight naturally evolves that way, that it kind of dynamically moves that way. But it kind of those types of rules kind of promote rushing, because you only have a very small map to kite on, and it's going to be very difficult to kite. I tried this, and the map area is going to be 550, and I guess that's meters. 550 in the center times 550 if we go by this 300 from the red line rule. And so it's going to be very difficult to maneuver in that smaller space, and it's also going to be very easy to block off a significant portion of the map. And if you look at the Athenae map, quite a bit of the map is just not usable, and I wonder if the players think about that when they pick the map Athenae, because it has some interesting hills and such, but Athenae is also extremely rush friendly because it's just a smaller map than some of the other maps. It's more easier to just go head on against your opponent, and he won't have anywhere to go really. He can either go uphill and get tired, or downhill and be at a disadvantage. So it's not an easy map to do anything but rush on. And this is the map that Panda Warrior played Danko when Panda Warrior had Rome and Danko had the Lusitani, and he was able to use the terrain very effectively, surround Danko and summarily destroy the Lusitani army. And the Lusitani are often seen as a good counter to Rome, and they can be, but Rome just has more tools to deal with Lusitani than Lusitani has to deal with Rome. Lusitani has some missiles going for them, they have some veteran shield warriors, some noble swords going for them, while Rome can bring shock cav, they can bring good skirmishers, they can bring infantry that can stand up to missile fire. So I definitely think Rome is a hard faction to beat with the Lusitani if you're up against a player that knows what he's doing and that knows his faction and is able to use it well. Which, to be fair, is something you don't see often in quick battles. It's very easy to get wins with good sword rushes in quick battles, but against good players that know how to use their shock cavalry and skirmishers, it's not going to be that easy. Now the players are still picking and choosing factions, because the player at the top of the bracket picks the map and names his faction, and the second player picks his faction, and then it's reversed the next round. And the way it works here is there is no pick and ban system, there's just pick counter pick, but you can't use the same faction twice until I believe the semi-finals in this tournament. So if Madslinky goes for Rome now, which he does, that means he won't be able to use Rome until the semi-finals. And if Danko picks the Getae, he isn't going to be able to pick the Getae. So while they are picking the armies, I'm going to just keep this image here because so nobody will be able to stream snipe or anything. Danko is ready, it looks like. He's ready it up. Slinky is picking his build. And Getae versus Rome, interesting matchup. Who do you give the edge to here? 6 people in the chat. 4 people in the chat. Who do you give the edge to, Rome or the Getae? Personally, I really like the Getae, but they kind of lack good mid-level swords. They have very good mid-level axes and spears, so they can be used somewhat similarly. The spears are a nightmare to kill when they get into their shield screen formation. But overall, I think Rome is slightly more cost-effective on the sword side, but with the Getae, extremely good faction. Oh, you'll find that player... You find that players take a lot of time in Total War Rome 2 in picking and choosing their builds, because so much is decided just by the build alone and how the build counters your opponent's build. So it's entirely possible to lose the game before it even starts because you don't have the tools to deal with your enemy army. And a lot of that is guesswork. You have to guess what the army is going to bring. And of course, knowing the most cost-effective units of a certain army is going to help you to prepare for that, but then they can surprise you by bringing a different type of build. Although there aren't endless numbers of builds that can be brought, they all fall into different categories, like a skirmish build or a rush build, an infantry rush, skirmish plus cavalry, and so on. But yeah, it's very important, and it's kind of funny just watching the players pick and choose and take out a unit and put in a unit. You would think that players that play this game as much as these guys do would have like ready preset armies that just counter Getae, bam, then you would pick the Roman army that counters Getae, but nope, picking and choosing units. Little by little. I guess it's kind of endearing. I'm just keeping the stream on to let people know that it's about to happen pretty soon. I played Madslinky in some warm-up games just before this, and he is on pretty good form, I must say. Now, those were with barbarian factions, so he didn't practice his Rome game. But Madslinky showed he could be very, very dangerous with barbarian factions in the previous games between Danko. he had a very surprising win with Arverni against Bactria, which is a counter pick you don't see very often, I think. But he managed to pull it off. Managed to deal with some very annoying elephants and obliterate the infantry while taking care of the cavalry, so that was a pretty good game. And also with the, I believe it was the Boii versus the Odrysian Kingdom. Danko picked the Odrysian Kingdom, which is risky as hell. It almost cost him the entire series of games. But he did manage to win in the end and won the bronze medal and or the bronze finals. And I think there was talk about there being something like a T-shirt prize or something like that. Rome 2 T-shirt or just a sweaty old T-shirt from the people who organized the contest. I don't know anyone who spends more time making their build than Madslinky. It's pretty it's pretty amazing. But like I said, it's very important as well, so picking and choosing your units can be quite important. Maybe he's trying to psych out Danko by using a long time to make his build here. Maybe he knows that Danko has got attention deficit disorder or something, and he tries to drag it out to make Danko all stressed, to fuck up his micromanagement skills. It might be a possibility. That may be why he chose the Odrysian Kingdom last time. So Madslinky says sorry about taking too long. Danko says no problem. Come on, guys. Let's see some fighting. Fighting around the world. So Reptilicus gave the edge to Rome here. And I kind of want to give the edge to Rome as well. Although I like Getae better. I've seen myself what mid-tier spam of Romans can do against the Getae. And yes, I do like fish sticks, but not that much really. Had burgers for dinner today. Pretty good, pretty good. Alright, here we go, here we go. We are live with the Battle of Athenae between Danko and Madslinky. Danko is from the Total War Rebel clan and Madslinky is from the Wolf clan, which is short for Women of Little Femininity. And let's just see here. I'll just ask if the sound is okay real quick. So I don't want to show an entire stream, and this is what I was talking about with this Athenae map. It's part of the map is just it's just these. Yep, it's sea. So technically, if you wanted to camp down at the beach, take a nice holiday at the beach, then you wouldn't be redlining because there is no red line there. Okay, so I'll just look away and see while the players are deploying, so it isn't possible to stream snipe what's going on. I'll just check in the chat if everything is okay as well. Yeah, it looks okay. So the timer is set for 60 minutes. I don't remember how long the battle can last, but with these rules and with these factions, I doubt we'll see much more than 10 minutes, perhaps even shorter. We might see a Getae skirmish build, but I kinda doubt it, to be honest. We have the good luck, have fun from Danko. Let's see if Madslinky readies up. There is a slight advantage to Madslinky in this matchup, which is something you usually see with Rome because they have so much infantry. That's what the Romans do, and one of the players is ready. Let's see if the second player readies up. I believe it's Danko who's ready. Madslinky taking his time. Woohoo! But I have it on good authority that there won't be any dropping today because Madslinky can play all night if he wants to. So, go over the builds just real quick. Madslinky has a center consisting of veteran legionaries, legionary cohort, veteran legionaries, legionary cohort, veteran legionaries, legionaries, and here we have some veteran legionaries. He has 2 equites on each flank, I believe. Yep, so 4 equites total. 3 auxiliary Syrian archers, legatus, 2 hastati, speed bumps up front. Let's have a look at Danko. 2 bow horse, great units. 4 spear horse, great units. And we should have a shitload of noble swords here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 noble swords. Very good choice by Danko. And we have some Dacian heavy skirmishers, 2 of those. And also some mercenary axe warriors. 3 mercenary axe warriors in the center. So kind of a weak center with missile support, but very strong flanks in these noble swords. Still, he has his work cut out for him because Madslinky is just rushing the hell out of this army. he doesn't give a fuck. He's just marching straight up this hill, and if Danko is quick, Danko will be able to catch him downhill here and have the height advantage. But the question is if he really wants to engage this Roman army, and I think he has to do it. I think he has to. This is the best he's going to get. He has to engage here because he won't have better terrain than what he gets now. If he gets pushed off the hill here, it's going to be a while until he can fight downhill. So I would probably rushed in, but I think Danko is a better player than I am, so maybe he's making a better choice there. Mercenary Axe Warriors against Hastati. Not the best matchup for Axe Warriors because they don't have the best weapon damage, but they have high armor piercing. They should be able to take out the Hastati, and they also have the advantage of terrain on their side. And this is going to be just a straight up rush. We have horse and noble swords moving in at the same time. The horse are going to knock down the legionary cohort, so that when these guys, the noble swords, move in, they're going to be able to kill the legionary cohort a bit quicker, and the legionary cohort are going to be able to retaliate a bit less. So pretty nice move there. Veteran legionaries are going down to noble swords, of course, but there are some bow horse here going to support the fight, and they are shooting into the unshielded side of the veteran legionaries, so good job of Danko. And now it's just a huge clusterfuck of units, cavalry on cavalry, infantry engagements happening all over. And it looks like most of Madslinky's units are engaged. He has some cavalry here. Danko isn't going to get his bow horse out in time, and this is pretty important because the equites of Madslinky are going to catch the bow horse, and that's the end of the bow horse, I think. They can't really stand up to anything in melee. And over here, a pretty weird move by by Danko, I think. I don't think he's out of ammunition yet, but he's charging into these auxiliary Syrian archers, and the bow horse aren't really going to do casualties there. But that might be just to stop them. Still, it's going to cost him, because this legatus and these Syrian archers are going to kill quite a few of the bow horse. And the auxiliary Syrian archers didn't take a single casualty from these bow horse. They were flattened, but these bow horse are just, they have a charge bonus of 4, so they have no business charging anything. They need to be running away, not running towards. But this, amazingly, this unit of bow horse survived, probably because of the spear horse. And he pulled them out, and now they're firing into the back of these equites. But it looks like Rome is slowly overwhelming the opposition here. We'll have a look at how the noble swords are doing. Here they are destroying veteran legionaries. Over here they are also destroying veteran legionaries, but these guys will be very depleted when they're done fighting the veteran legionaries. These guys have a free charge down here, but it looks like Danko's attention is elsewhere. Veteran legionaries dying to noble swords, but again, the noble swords are going to be very, very depleted when they are done fighting here. So if Danko isn't able to deal with these skirmishers and with the cavalry, then it's quite possible that they will just be charged and skirmished to death. But still, the battle is not over yet, but looking at this, you see a lot of red and not a lot of brown. And we have the mercenary axe warriors in the center are wavering, not doing very well. Like I said earlier, these are not the targets you want to send your mercenary axe warriors at, and you don't want to charge frontally. Getting 20 kills and getting destroyed, that's not a very good exchange on their part. These noble swords need to engage, but the problem with Rome is that Rome just has so many units that the Getae can't really, so many good and cost-effective units, that while the Getae elite noble swords are very good, the axe warriors aren't going to be able to take these guys head on. What Danko could have done, I think, is go for the armored spears, charge them in with a pretty nice charge bonus, and just have them hold in the shield screen. They would be able to hold for quite some time, and then you could bring in the noble swords when they were done with their respective units. So that is one way of doing it. It's really nice to have the axe warriors though. It's just difficult to compete with Rome in a straight up rush for the Getae, because the Getae, they have a nice balanced roster, but what they lack is good mid-range, really elite sword or mid-range sword infantry, and they also lack cheap melee infantry. They have the axes, but axes aren't really going to cut it, so to say. Axes are good in a flanking role and in the rear charging role, but in a straight up charge, not that good against swords. So it looks like I am going to try to call it early, and it looks like this is going to Madslinky and his Romans. Danko's general is about to go down, and I kind of question Danko's, because remember that Danko counterpicked Madslinky with Rome here, so picking the Getae to counter Rome is kind of a strange choice, I think. I don't think I would have counterpicked Rome with Getae ever, to be honest. Because most of the things the Getae can do, Rome can do better and more cost effective, and the Getae will be outnumbered. Which is kind of the reverse of what you find when you're Getae against some of the other factions. Here the Bohorse, they're still alive. It doesn't look like Madslinky has bothered firing at them much. And here are some routing Triarii. Again, Bohorse getting charged by the Legatus, and the Bohorse haven't really been able to get a huge amount of kills here. None of the units of the noble swords will always do well, but there are too many Romans here to kill. And yeah, noble swords doing okay on average, but the thing is, these guys cost just so much more. They cost about 50% more than these legionaries. No, sorry, the veteran legionaries and the legionary cohorts. So they do need to kill this amount of troops in order to be effective, but the problem is there are so few noble swords compared to how many legionary units there are. So Rome is going to be able to just grind the hell out of this Getae army. And yep, that's it. This is a GG. And Reptilicus called it. Rome was going to take this home. Now we're going to see the mopping up action, the rear charges coming against the noble swords here. His general, let's have a look if you can see his general. There's his general. Only 28 men left in the general unit, and being fired upon by these auxiliary Syrian archers. They are not using heavy shot, which they don't really need to, but when these guys use heavy shot, their missile damage is going to increase by 5. And their armor piercing damage is going to increase. So the range is going to go down to 110, since these guys have 150 range. So, but at this point it doesn't really matter if he uses heavy shot or not. It just would be slightly more effective. But it's really no big deal, because this Getae army is done. And you'll see all of the supporting units are dead, while the noble swords are still alive, but they are just so depleted that they aren't going to be able to fight the combined assault Possibly. If they're able to grind it out now, it would be absolutely amazing, because they are in the forest here, and they are destroying the Histati legionary cohorts. So if you're looking at if we're looking at what Madslinky has left here, and maybe he should have used his heavy shot. Maybe he should have used his heavy shot to kill this general, because Madslinky's melee units are all routing now. They're getting destroyed by the noble swords, and this is the danger of only having mid-tier infantry. But now he can just kite all day. But boy, you need to turn on your heavy shot to do increased damage. He is going to kill the general probably here, but it depends on how much ammunition he has left. Now, since Danko only has infantry left, that means that Madslinky is the attacker. So Danko can just box up with his swords wherever he wants, but it's going to be very difficult to do anything here. So Getae is getting caught by the javelins of these noble swords, killing quite a few Getaes actually, but the noble swords are under fire themselves, and come on, turn on your heavy shot, it's going to be important. Well, it's there is quite a lot of cavalry left here, and these units are so depleted that I have a hard time seeing. But I still need to break this unit of 63 noble swords. The general is still alive. They are exhausted, all of them, and it doesn't look like the auxiliary Syrian archers are firing anymore. They haven't gotten the most kills here either. Not a huge amount of kills. But they are firing into the flanks of these noble swords, and they're going down, and there we go, the beautiful heavy shot. Now we remembered, 40 missile damage, 110 range. That is going to eat these noble swords alive. Because with the units that already have 40 missile damage, the heavy shot isn't going to give them 5 more. But with the units that have 35 missile damage, the heavy shot is going to give them 40 missile damage. So it's quite worth it in this scenario where you really need range and you're just shooting at units that are fish in a barrel. So it's going to be difficult for Danko here to. But it was pretty amazing that they were able to grind it out against all those Roman units and only having the skirmishers left. Now imagine if Danko had gotten a single unit of spear horse into these auxiliary Syrian archers. And now he can go for some downhill charges with his cavalry, but I bet he wants to use all of his ammunition first. And he can also charge in with his auxiliary Syrian archers and go for rear charges with the cavalry, and that could potentially break these units because they have lost a lot of men, and losing men is going to decrease the morale of a unit. Also, if the army is losing, it's going to decrease the morale of the unit. So it is possible that that Madslinky could go for a morale break here, although 73 base morale, that's going to be difficult to break. And they can also pop headhunt. I don't think he's popped headhunt yet, so they can pop headhunt at any time, and that will allow them to stay in the fight for a bit longer. But yeah, it's actually Madslinky that needs to make something happen here. Danko can just stay in the woods and chill out and die to these auxiliary Syrian archers. Now they're getting some more kills, but not really amazing because they were firing into the forest here. Very aggressive opening by Madslinky, and it almost worked extremely well. But then that's the thing when you go for armies that have a lot of mid-tier, even the Romer mid-tier infantry, they don't hold up to elite swords at all, because the gap in effectiveness is just so huge that these noble swords and similar units are going to chew through almost 2 whole units of cheaper infantry, and that's going to be a problem when you only have your supporting units left. But on the flip side of that, it's going to be a problem for you when you only have your strong elite units left, but you can't catch any of the enemy's remaining units because they're all cavalry or they're all skirmishers. So this unit is a prime target for being charged. It's one charge should destroy this unit fairly effectively. So Danko doesn't really need to do this actually, doesn't need to charge here. But maybe he's trying to bait charges, maybe he has a plan going. Well, it doesn't look like it. Going into shield wall to try and get the bracing bonus against these Equites. But this unit is just so... 12 guys left. It's just so depleted, it's going to be very difficult to make something work with that unit. And same here. They still have ammunition left, so pretty nice move there by Madslinky, drawing the units out and then starting to fire again, because I thought they were out of ammunition, but apparently not. Still, he should probably save his ammunition for one of these bigger units. And now there are only 2 of these noble sword units left on the field for Danko. This is a GG, the army is losing, so they're going to waver, but he's popping Headhunt in order to increase the morale of the unit, and we'll see how much the morale increases here. Nope, he didn't have time to do it. The unit's just routed, and he's putting Headhunt on this unit, but it's too late. It's a GG. So the first game goes to Madslinky's Rome, and now Madslinky can't use Rome for the remainder of the tournament until the semi-finals. So that's it. So Danko says that Madslinky has learned the infantry pull through from Panda. Oh shit! Shit just got real. So, end of the battle. We'll take a look at the result screen, and then we are ready for the next battle. Danko needs to win that to stay in the game. So here you can see that Danko killed more men than Madslinky did, but Danko had a smaller army. He only had, well, he had 5 of these noble swords, which is good. They killed a lot of Romans, but there were too many Romans here. And they actually killed all of the Roman infantry, but there still was auxiliary Syrian archers, there still were some Equites and some guys left alive. So that was the problem. Not enough units for the Getae. So I'll just put up the image here, like so, so nobody can can snipe. And we'd all like to know what the Panda infantry drag trick is, of course. Sure, it's OP as hell. So in the next battle here, it's going to be Danko that picks the map, and Danko is going to pick the faction. Madslinky is going to counter it. And if this goes to now they're discussing if he pulled through with the infantry, so I guess this is for real. But anyway, if this goes to the tiebreaker is going to be Pontus versus Pontus. So come on Danko, your time to pick the map and the faction. Now Madslinky is in a bit of an advantageous situation here, because when he was counterpicked he was able to win, and now he's going to be able to counterpick Danko, which of course gives him an advantage. And if Madslinky takes this, then this is the end of the best of 3. So the Prussian prince just joined the stream, and Danko is down 1 against Madslinky. He brought Getae versus Rome, and there were too many Romans to kill basically. He killed about 1600 of them, but it wasn't enough. So now Danko's picked his faction. He has picked Carthage, and the map is Dimidi. Or Dimidi, or how the hell you pronounce that kebab name. Dimidi. So let's see what Madslinky counters Carthage with. It can be a pretty tricky faction to counter, because Carthage can bring a lot of things. So yeah, Madslinky is offering himself up for interview if he wins, and on Skype here on the stream, so that should be interesting. I'll ask him what he felt and how it feels to be able to finally beat his greatest rival in the whole wide total world. Because Danko beat him the last time due to some unfortunate circumstances when his father came in a rage and pulled the plug on him, which is the best ending to a best of 5 ever. So it looks like Madslinky is having a look at the Boii, which is a pretty interesting counter to Carthage. Some would even call it risky. I would certainly call it risky on an open map. But the Boii is an amazing faction. Just against Carthage? Not quite sure. Madslinky has made barbarian factions work against civilized factions with elephants and such before, and they can absolutely do it. It's just a bit difficult. Yep, that would probably be pretty good. It's a DLC that allows you to instantly pull the plug, have a dad come in and pull the plug when you're losing, and only when you're losing. A general's ability, pull the plug. He has pulled the plug and blame dad. I'm just kidding. I remember how it was to have a... Oh yeah, Madslinky is going to go for Boii. So we're going to see Carthage versus Boii. That's a pretty interesting matchup. Who do you give the edge to of Carthage and the Boii? Now I always hope that there are as many games as possible, so I hope Danko wins this, so we have the tiebreaker. Pontus versus Pontus is one funky mirror matchup. And Madslinky is ready. Let's see if Danko's ready. If they both are ready, then we are a go for the second and possibly last battle of the opening round of the Sith Decade of Darkness, or Darkness, I don't remember quite, tournament. So, two strong players, one of them is going to advance, the other one is going to get knocked out in the opening stages. Which is unfortunate for him, and fortunate for everyone else, basically. Well, I think I could beat both Madslinky and Danko. fairly easily. They're not that good. Nobody's good. Everyone sucks. Everyone's noobs. Well, everyone except you know who. Who is the best Total War Rome 2 player in the world right now? Reptilicus can't say Reptilicus. He can't say Rectilicus. Danko still taking his time readying up here. So now Danko is on the spot and he is taking his sweet, sweet time. Now, funny thing, I'm almost older than King of Boii. I am almost older than both Madslinky and Danko put together. Almost, not quite. So this King of Boii, I have heard of him, I've heard the legend, but I haven't had the pleasure. The Prussian Prince says everyone in Rome Total War are bad players compared to the level in StarCraft and Dota and such. And I guess that's true, because the competitive level is pretty damn crappy in Total War Rome 2. But the games are so different, you can't really compare them that way, because they are so fundamentally different. So in StarCraft, for example, the micro is extremely important, and it's important to have the correct build order and know the maps and so on. But there are far fewer combat mechanics that are important to know, and there is less. In some ways there's more timing, and in some ways there's less timing. If you've lost a unit in Total War Rome 2, there's no way you can get that unit back. While in StarCraft you can use some tricks to set off a loss and to not have it be as devastating as it could have been, but there are no such mechanics in Total War Rome 2. And here we go with the second battle. The map is Dimity, a nice and flat map. And you know what? I think the reason why Danko chose this map is because it's a desert map, and this map is going to give the units of well, the Carthaginian units have a resistance to heat, most of them, so they won't really care about this, but the units of Madslinky are not going to be too happy running around in this heat, although they are mostly almost naked. But the barbarian units, the Boii, are going to fatigue faster here, and that could be a massive factor in this battle. So I'll just look away from the builds, have a look at this nice city instead. I guess this is the Dimity city, and since we have the debug cam, we can almost go all the way over to the city. It's a pretty nice looking city, I must say. I think I've besieged that city quite a few times in single player, or have I? I don't know. Suddenly I became uncertain. I haven't played single player in quite some time. So yep, you can't. The rules here dictate that you have to stay 300 away from the red line. So that's about here on each side, about here and here and here. So it's quite a big area that you have to kind of avoid. Here there are some deployables going down, some sharp rock beds, it looks like. Here's the weed DLC, the 420 MLG DLC, and we are underway with the second battle pretty soon. Let's have a look at Madslinky's build. We have Celtic warriors and sword followers in the center, just a mass of these guys, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 6 of each, sword followers and Celtic warriors, 3 Celtic bows, 4 heavy horse. So this is just a massive rush with some skirmishing support. And Danko has brought mercenary Samnites, mercenary Samnites, mercenary Samnites, Libyan infantry, Libyan infantry, Libyan infantry, Libyan infantry, mercenary noble fighters, mercenary noble fighters, Iberian swords, Scutari cavalry, late Libyan hoplites, and I think what Danko's doing now is stopping in order for Madslinky to have to move up towards him. But Madslinky is being smart here because he's walking his units, he isn't running them. And that could potentially be quite important, because if he was running his units in this heat, then they would fatigue faster and they would recover slower from their fatigue. And as we know, fatigue reduces melee attack and the speed of units, and for these barbarian units, they live and die by their melee attack and their melee defense to some degree. So having their melee defense potentially be cut in half prematurely in the battle is going to be very bad for barbarian units that can't really use armor to save them. But these armies are... well, if I were going to give the edge to any of these armies, the Boii army looks quite a bit more intimidating, but it doesn't really have elite swords. Only this one unit of Oathsworn, and these 2 mercenary noble fighters, they can potentially chew through a lot of these Celtic warriors and these sword followers. They can get monster kills on them, and the other units are fairly similarly matched. The cavalry edge goes to the Boii, but the Boii doesn't have any anti-cavalry units, doesn't have any spears, but doesn't really need it when Danko only brought his mercenary Scutari cavalry. So a bit of a standoff here. And by the rules of the tournament, Danko hasn't really moved out of his deployment. I don't really see an issue with it, but that's the way it is. But now he's moving forward. So you could see some skirmishing here by Madslinky, because only he has skirmishers. And I think this is quite interesting. In the previous tiebreaker, when Danko went up against Madslinky, and when it came down to that one last battle that was going to decide the match between them, then Danko just didn't bring any skirmishers. And Madslinky, it looks like Madslinky likes to always have some skirmishers, while Danko likes to just save denarii or talents on the skirmishers and just go for an all-out sword spam, basically. And I like his way of thinking here. But some more cavalry could have been nice, and here the engagements are starting. He is shooting at the Libyan infantry. This unit does not have, the late Libyan hoplites, doesn't have attack orders on anyone, which is a bit bad, to be honest. Bit miss micro there. The heavy horse getting charged by mercenary Scutari cavalry, and now the late Libyan hoplites are charging in. Engagements are just going to start happening all over the lines, but it doesn't look like... well, okay. So the mercenary Samnites are crashing through these sword followers. They possibly had attack orders on these here Celtic warriors. So not really sure what's going on there. That looked a bit weird, to be honest. Pulling away his late Libyan hoplites, presumably to go after this unit of heavy horse, so it can't go for rear charges. And we should see shield walls being dropped. Yep, ha, that was a pretty good call, I must say. Shield walls after the charge bonus dies down. And then it is mercenary noble fighters. They are going to eat these sword followers alive. Sword followers are very nice units, but mercenary noble fighters are amazing units. And here these Celtic bows are going to do some friendly fire to their own sword followers, but it might be worth it in order to take down these mercenary noble fighters, because they are mainly going to be taken down with missiles. But here the mercenary Samnites not doing that well, and I kind of have the same experience that mercenary Samnites, they are able to tank for a while, but they aren't getting the best kills. I like Libyan infantry a lot more than mercenary Samnites, but let's see how they do, the different units. It looks like the Libyan infantry is doing well against sword followers, doing very well against sword followers. The Libyan infantry did pop their shield walls earlier, so that might come into play. But these Celtic bows are going to be able to do hit point damage to a lot of units, and that might potentially affect things. Now here Danko needs to be careful, so his general is in charge. But I think Madslinky actually was going for this unit of mercenary Iberian swords, since it's here supporting and throwing javelins at the general of Danko. Here the heavy horse is going to get charged, and the rules of engagement in this tournament is that you can only leave in the same direction that you came in. So if these guys charged in here, they can only disengage this way, and that, with these rules, it's going to be very easy to trap cavalry, and here you see them disengaging, losing quite a few horses, but also getting out with the main part of the horses. And now, due to the rules of the tournament, you can't really spam click to disengage, but I'm not really too fond of that rule, because the way units stop and aren't really able to disengage that mechanic isn't very polished, to say the least. Sword followers managed to beat a unit of, I believe it was a unit of mercenary Iberian swords. Okay, so nothing major. These mercenary Samnites are pulling out for some reason, probably because they're going for this unit instead, and this unit is in shield wall, so they'll be able to disengage easily against the unit in shield wall. Now here it looks like the Carthaginians have the advantage, but this unit of mercenary noble fighters is going down against Oathsworn and missile fire. Libyan infantry again doing well against Celtic warriors and the sword followers, but it's fairly even. Although I quite like the way Madslinky is able to move around with his units. It's potentially going to enable him to rear charge and such, and the lack of cavalry on Danko's part is going to make it difficult for him to deal with these units that can bug him in the late game. But Danko is going for it with these guys, with the mercenary noble fighters. They aren't really going to be able to catch the Celtic bows, but anyway, facing them is much better than being shot at in the flanks and such. The unit of mercenary noble fighters getting killed here without getting the highest amount of kills, probably because it was up against Oathsworn. Now Danko is sending in some more Libyan infantry against the Oathsworn, while the mercenary Iberian swords are firing at the Oathsworn unit. So that Oathsworn unit is going to be pretty damn important, both since it's the general and because there's just so much killing power concentrated in it. So now it looks like Madslinky is starting to gain an edge here, and this Carthaginian build is basically a barbarian build, a very standard barbarian sword rush, but you can only bring 2 really elite swords, and then you have all of these mid-level swords. But I think against the Boii, I don't think that was the best pick by Danko, because the Boii can just do it better than Carthage can, with its sword followers and its Celtic swords and such. Now Carthage can bring very good sword builds, but just straight up going for a sword rush against especially the Boii that have the axe warriors and the Celtic swords and the sword followers and the Oathsworn, I just think it's a very risky proposition. And here's some more sword followers with a lot of kills coming in. This unit is going down, and now finally he's going to go for the skirmishers. And he's probably going to get some of these Celtic bows, but this unit is very depleted. So if Madslinky starts firing at this unit, Danko is going to lose his general. The balance of power is shifting in favor of Madslinky pretty damn fast, and now it's not looking good at all here. The general is down to half strength, getting 130 kills, But I don't see any really strong units left for Carthage that will be able to take down what Madslinky has left. These mercenary Samnites did okay, but up against Celtic warriors and sword followers. And I think we just saw the last battle of this series. Of battles. Not the last battle of the tournament or anything, but the last battle of this best of 3. The GG is called, so it looks like Danko was defeated, and it looks like Madslinky came out on top with a pretty interesting counter pick, but I guess he knows Danko enough that he knew that Danko probably wanted to go for a sword rush. And like I said, sword rushes is something that Boii can do better than just about every faction out there. With the Oathsworn and the sword followers with their shield walls and the Celtic warriors, it's going to be really hard to outspam the Boii. And the main difference between the Boii and the other factions is the sword followers and the axes they also can bring. Now I didn't bring axes in this instance, which was a pretty good choice. They also have decent medium heavy cavalry in the form of, I believe they have the heavy horse class of cavalry. And the last of the Carthaginian units are going down. The general is dying. And the carnage. Oh my god, the carnage. So it will be interesting to look at the kills here to see how effective the different units were. The mercenary noble fighters did well, but not well enough. Maybe it was a mistake to save them until a lot of the fighting was done. So Madslinky getting 1600 kills here, 1300, and this is what I'm talking about. Just look at all these swords. Holy shit. How are you going to compete with 12 very cost-effective swords? And the problem here is basically a lack of good melee units, because we have 9 good sword units and 3 sort of supporting units, but they're able to get a decent amount of kills. But against this core and this cavalry advantage, it's not much that Danko can do, really. So Danko congratulates, and I'm just going to call up Madslinky now on the chat to hear what he thought about that victory.
Yo.
Hello, this is Maximus. Congratulations on beating your arch nemesis.
Thank you.
So the victories were fairly convincing, but it was pretty strange that you picked Rome as your first pick. Why did you pick Rome and why did you pick Rome on that map in particular?
Well, Rome are obviously really strong. You can't really compete with them on infantry level with a lot of people. And if you're going to pick like a barbarian faction that's got better infantry, you're at a skirmish disadvantage. And that map is good for rushing. It's got interesting terrain.
Because I thought when I was looking at the map and I kind of looked at the rules as well, then I realized that map is a lot narrower than other maps are. So you basically, because of the beach and
I think it suits it almost.
Yeah, it's just basically a head-on infantry map. But Danko counterpicking you with the Getae, that was a very strange counterpick, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect Getae. I mean, at first he was going with Pontus, which would have been alright, but the thing is with that map as well, it's not good for chariots or anything, so it kind of protects you in that way. Yeah,
definitely. So in the second matchup, you kind of surprised me at least with bringing the Boii, a barbarian faction, against Carthage. So what was the thought process behind picking the Boii against Carthage?
Well, I think Boii are much stronger, to be honest, because the medium cabs are better. No one's really going to bring expensive cav this patch.
Yep.
And then sword followers are probably one of the most cost-effective mid-tier swords, and then you've obviously got your cheap ones, and also aren't that good as always. So, and Carthage really, I think they're overrated. They're not. Their infantry isn't actually that good.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it
So yeah,
looks
I was
like it
stumped
almost
with.
looked like you read Danko's mind with the build he brought, because it was very similar as the build he brought in your last battles. The mirror Carthage versus Carthage, where Carthage kind of tries to surprise you by going, "Whoa, I'm Carthage, and I can also pretend I'm a barbarian sword rush," which they really can't
Yeah,
do as well as the Boii. Not even close.
I suppose I'm kind of gotten used to his style of play a bit,
Yeah, because
but
you do tend
I
to
don't
meet
know.
each other in these tournaments.
Yeah, but I think I didn't think too much about what he was gonna bring.
Yeah.
I just focused. I just knew that this boy I build could beat Carthage. You know, I wasn't preparing for infantry spanners especially, or
But
I
okay,
just
let's
just
say
got my
that
boy I build.
Danko read your mind and Danko thought, okay, the boy, it's going to be a straight up sword rush. Let's say that Danko just tanks on elephants and companion cavalry, noble cavalry, and noble fighters, maybe even pikes. Do you think that army would have been able to deal with such an army?
Well, the thing is with elites, you bring not very many of them. So, if you brought companions, my horse would just bog them down, and then my swords would support. If you brought elephants, I have plenty of bows. I think if he has a skirmish build, could work, but it just depends how well he kites it.
Yeah.
But 4 cav is usually enough to put pressure on him.
But with those rules, I mean, you aren't really going to be able to kite very well if you have to stay outside of 300 of the red line. So it's really the rules kind of promote rush builds in a way.
Yeah, and I know that Danko doesn't usually bring foot skirmishers
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I noticed that in the previous battles as well. It doesn't look like he might bring a peltast or two or a javelin man or two, but he doesn't really bring long range skirmishing. It looks like he just likes to bring cav and infantry and that's it.
Yeah, it's just what obviously finds works for him most of the time.
Yeah,
Not
most of
against
the
me.
time. Well, when you play people a lot, you kind of start to learn how they play and how they think, and that it
Yeah,
becomes kind of interesting that way. It's like, well, okay, if you know his style and he knows your style, are you going to be able to change it so that you're able to surprise him slightly, or are you just going to forget about who you're playing? Like, because if you start thinking too much about who you're playing, that might fuck up your game as well. Instead of just
it's
bringing a good build.
the correct mentality in like any sort of competition. You don't want to be focusing before the game about what they can do to you.
Yeah,
You know, you want to be thinking about what, because you can't control that. You know,
yeah.
you want to be in like the mindset, like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna win it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Play your game, not play his game, unless there are chariots. Then all bets are off. Holy
Yeah.
shit! But I was kind of hoping we would see. I was hoping we would see a mirror matchup of Pontus versus Pontus. So I'm in a way, I'm kind of mad that you won this. You
That
could.
sounds like hell.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because you have no.
Does not sound fun at all.
I tried half a matchup because we dropped from the game against Minnow, and Pontus versus Pontus is it's so terrible. It's the worst. It's like Parthia versus Parthia mirror matchup, but worse.
Yeah, I tried doing a Seleucid versus Seleucid. Well, I actually did do a Seleucid versus Seleucid, and it's basically you both rip into each other with your chariots and have like 5 units left at the
Yep.
end.
It's like who can click the fastest through the enemy units and who is the luckiest. Yep. I'm kind of thinking, well, you know that there's going to be chariots and you know that there's probably going to be an Indian armored elephant, but if you just go
Yeah.
completely opposite and bring a surprise Seleucid build or surprise Pontic build, it can work, but then you're kind of like, okay, you're not using the best units you have.
Yeah. It's sometimes you think, oh, I know, I can bring this and surprise them, and then you
Yeah.
think, well, why is that the expected build? And you
Yep.
think, well, yeah, because it's good, it works.
Yeah.
But I've seen Pontus used without chariots, and they've done alright.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it isn't as devastatingly effective, like 600 kills in a minute effective. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, slowly effective. Yeah, but anyway, I think we should wrap up this stream. I will upload the battles for those of you who didn't get to see them live. They were pretty interesting battles, and Danko needs to step up his game if he's going to play Madslinky in coming tournaments, because it looks like Madslinky's got your number. So yeah, thanks for the interview. It was interesting to hear how you're thinking about playing the game and such. And I think that's something that we, in a way, kind of miss in the community. Like, there's not a lot of people
Yeah.
talking to each other, like live, if you know what I'm saying.
Apart from YouTubers.
Yeah, apart from YouTubers, and it's just nice to be able to hear what people are thinking, both before and after the games. I think, like how they thought it went and stuff like that. So, thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and I'll no doubt see you again on the stream and on the battlefield. Tally ho.